All right, guys, before we start this video, I have a confession to make. Well, I, by myself, went on site to interview Pete Callan, the owner of Ragtop Helmet Restoration. He's a career firefighter. Thought this is gonna be great content for our following, talking about fire safety and various things that have to do with what we do in restoration and refinishing and flipping of furniture. So I got everything ready, set it all up, was quite proud of myself. Doing this on my own, I was like, this is pretty good. I usually have a tech person who comes with me and does this. They weren't able to do it, so I said, I got this. I go on site, get everything set up, ready to go, sit down, conduct what I think is a pretty good interview. Not bad, not bad. Good content. Pete was great. And then get back to the office, go to upload the videos, and realize I never turn the mics on. Well, there you have it. So I'm just preparing you. I'm going to call out the elephant in the room before this video starts, that the sound quality isn't that great. But a big shout out to my team who cleaned it up as best they can and made it presentable. So try to listen, try to enjoy it. And again, 100% my fault. Next time, I promise I will turn the mics on. I promise. Enjoy. Hey guys, Gary over at Stripwell. I'm here today at Ragtop. They are a fire helmet restoration business. This is Pete Callan, the owner. And we have a cool conversation to have today with Pete. He not only restores and makes helmets beautiful again for the firefighters to use and keep them in duty, but he also is a firefighter. So he's going to kind of talk to us about both aspects, sort of what he does here at the shop a little bit, but also his backstory and how long he's been in the doing the firefighting and all of that, and give us some tips and tricks and things to kind of consider when we're doing restoration in our homes and our shops, things like that, just safety tips as far as fire is concerned. So welcome, Pete.
Thanks.
And yeah, it's awesome. Thanks for having us. We're here at his shop. So you have a couple examples here of your helmets. Let's start with that. Let's show kind of what you do.
Pretty basic what we do. I mean, what I consider pretty basic, but is, we get a helmet that comes in like this. It's all, sooted up, smoked up.
Yeah.
It's got some damage up top here. And for whatever reason, the customer may want it to look new again.
Right.
And that's where we come in. And so we go through our process. We strip and remove all the paint. We get rid of, everything. We order all the replacement parts. We make it look like this.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
And we do all the paint, everything, all the paint removal, all the paint, everything. It's all done in house. We manufacture our own parts for the most part. A couple things we still order from the manufacturer, but that's about it.
Cool.
And some, like this customer wanted a two-tone paint job.
Nice,
so
yeah.
pretty much, any type of customization you want, we can do. And primarily we work with leather. We also branch out and do composites and plastics, things like that. So
cool.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, and you find that what's the main reasons why firefighters are restoring helmets?
There's kind of a lot of various reasons. One's a promotion. Somebody's making chief officer or something like that, and they're going to go from a black helmet to a white helmet.
Okay.
There's some positions are like captains, lieutenants. They either maybe wear like a red or yellow helmet, and like a private typically is a black helmet.
Okay.
So there's always like a color change reason. There's also damage. The department pulls the helmet offline and says, hey, the helmet's damaged, you gotta get it repaired.
Okay.
They come to see us for that. Or somebody buys a used helmet and they don't want somebody else's, work on the helmet, and they want to start fresh, so they come to us and freshen it up.
And do you find that it's sort of like for a firefighter, that's their thing that goes with them through their career? That's kind of
I mean that's I know firemen that care more about their helmet than sometimes their own wives or kids.
Right.
Yeah,
it's sort of their thing that goes with them.
I always equate it to like to people as pick you own a Lamborghini or you own a Ferrari, and you got the body shop to send it to. You want to that's pretty much what they're entrusting us with is their most prized possession is coming here. So.
Right, that's cool.
Yeah,
and you've done some historic helmets and things like that as well.
Yep.
A lot of really cool.
Yeah, we worked on helmets. I actually got a couple helmets over there in the case there from the 1800s.
Wow.
So we'll work on that, and we tend not to restore period pieces, things like that, but there's a lot of preventative maintenance that will be done.
Preservation.
Yep, preservation and preventative maintenance, things like that. Keep it from deteriorating, things like that.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot of what, it's funny because our following, our, our customer base is furniture.
Yep.
But it's sort of a very similar process in a way.
Right.
It's taking off the old, repairing, bringing it back into working order.
Right, and as a kid, I think I've talked about this before. Is that one of the reasons that kind of got me into this was as a kid I used to work in my father's furniture repair shop.
Oh yeah.
And
I'd forgotten that you mentioned that.
and so he had he was a journeyman for antique furniture refinishing, and he worked in various places throughout Connecticut, actually in Woolcott.
Oh, okay.
And so I spent tons of time in the shop with my father.
Yeah.
Working on.
So that's where it's sort of.
Yep, and that
started
kind of
the
just
roots
gave
of
me
it.
the hands-on
Yeah.
background, and then the fire helmet restoration is so closely related to antique furniture
For sure.
restoration. I mean,
Because there's a story, just like
Yep.
furniture, there's often a story involved, and
Yep.
you're preserving
and
not
it's a
just the
delicate
item
process.
but the story.
Yep, delicate process. Customers care very much about what's being done.
So you started when you started doing the helmets, it was sort of a side, almost like a side hustle sort of thing.
Yeah,
and
then
it
I
evolved
started
into,
out in my basement.
Yeah.
My wife and I lived in this little shoebox house.
Yeah.
And I had this tiny little basement shop, and then we just started doing one helmet, and then turned into two, and two turned into four turned into 20, and 20 turned into 50, and 50 turned into 100, and now it's 2010 is when we started, so about 12 years in now, and now we have I have phenomenal employees. Two great, fantastic employees that run the day-to-day operations, and then I have also part-time employees that come in, and we're at about 9 employees now.
Some firefighters also.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much everybody that works here is a fireman.
That's cool.
And either retired or active still.
Right.
Or they have some connection to the fire service. Jill, her husband's a firefighter of the city of Middletown, Connecticut.
Yep.
And then Joe, my social media guy, his father is Mike that runs the shop.
Yep.
His father retired. Firefighter. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming a lot of there are people that'll be watching this that probably have husbands or potentially wives too that are in the firefighter field
Certainly
too.
possible,
So, but that's cool. Yeah, it's funny how you start off in this little niche-y thing that probably at first it seems like it would only be a side hustle. Like, how could you ever scale it?
Right.
And then you realize the demand is there, and you've just found a niche that you kind of grow out, and it becomes something that you can really build and bring people in on. So that's cool.
Yeah. And we turned it into an apparel brand. We have a like a Ragtop based apparel brand.
Yeah.
We do all sorts of stuff like that. So it's kind of branched out. I mean, we started the apparel brand pretty much as soon as we started restoring helmets.
Yeah.
I wanted a logo and I wanted shirts.
Yeah.
So we started that. So it's always kind of been synergistic between the two.
Yeah.
And now they pretty much they match, for output for what we're doing. We're doing about as much apparel as we are on the road.
That's cool. That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, when you have a niche and you have a following that really loves that niche, they, apparel and things, that just helps to show that they are part of that community and all of that. So that's cool. Yeah, that's wild. So I mean, coming from that, obviously you also are a firefighter.
Yep.
So
that's
that's kind of the technical stuff we want to get into today, and we're going to kind of float over the surface. Obviously, we could probably go hours to get into the real technicalities, but just the basics today. One of the things we see that our followers use, our customers use, they use our product, but then they also use other products. Some are very safe, some are not.
Yep.
And obviously, handling them really matters. How you handle them, what you do to prevent just those accidents that you don't think will happen, but they do.
Sure.
So just speak into that a little bit. What's your experience in that? And
so started fire service when I was 17. So now I got about 23 years in the fire service as a whole. I started out as a volunteer for about 3 years, and then went into the military and was in the military as a firefighter for just about 11 years. And then so I was through the DOD, I was through the state system, I was through the National Guard. Moved around there a little bit, and then got hired on a larger city department in the state of Connecticut, where I work as a firefighter and as a hazardous materials technician.
Okay.
I've been about a hazmat technician for about 15 years.
Okay. So firsthand what we're.
Yeah. So we do the level A responses, things like that, for chemical mitigation and things like that. So the saying is that in today's world and day and age, any house fire you get is a hazardous materials response. Because of all the chemicals stored, what's stored, the chemicals in the sink, chemicals in the garage, all those types of things. So we kind of, we're always sort of, we tread lightly, with that, and we're always kind of looking out for chemicals and things like that, or what could cause us an issue.
Yeah, when you enter a scene and you're not
and that's
sure.
not even, and that's just a regular structure fire. That's not even hazardous materials response. I mean, it's a totally different.
Right.
It's
When you end up at a commercial setting where there's large volumes of
at least in a hazardous materials response, we know what we're getting into.
Yeah.
We know it's a hazardous. We may not know what the chemicals are, but we know we're getting. We're doing a hazardous.
You're mentally
materials
prepared
response.
to go into that versus
And
stumbling.
When structure fire, and a structure fire can't turn into a hazardous materials, incident due to the chemicals that are being stored, due to how they're being stored.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of our customer base, our followers, there's a range. We have some that are sort of professional level. They have shops. They have more of a professional business style, but a lot of them are just doing it in their homes, sometimes as a side hustle, like you started with the helmets.
Absolutely.
Other times they've grown it to where they're still working out of their house, but they actually have a pretty good operation going. They're moving a lot of inventory and a lot of furniture. What's some insights you could give them that would make them be a little bit safer? What are things to look for? Go ahead.
I'd say the biggest thing is knowledge. Know the products that you're using. I think that's going to be my number one item of concern. Be like, does the homeowner, does the user know the products that they're using? Do they know what's in it? Do they know what the makeup is? The information is readily available out there. You can get MSDS sheets. You can get, you can Google. I mean, I was just doing some research on the compounds for, what makes up Stripwell and things like that, and I found it on Wikipedia. I mean, it's out there. So the information's out there. Knowing what you're using and knowing, how it reacts with other chemicals, what the flammability rating is, what the health rating is. So really knowing what you're using. I mean, you have to have the knowledge. And then would be storage. How are you storing it? Most people in their homes aren't going to have a flammable, liquids cabinet. I mean, I have one here, but people aren't going to pay $1,500 for.
They're
a
expensive to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're not going to do that. So they're going to store it, generally how they feel it's safe on a shelf or in a cabinet or something like that. But let's say they have a storage locker in their garage. What's that made out of? It's probably made out of plastic. Plastic is flammable. So how that product's going to react. The nice thing about Stripwell is that it's completely not flammable. It says it right in the MSDS sheet that it is not flammable anyway. And I think we've done some testing where we've actually put some flames and things like that.
Yeah, one of my early videos, I've actually just dunked matches right into it. It doesn't combust. It just puts out the fire.
That's going to be huge. A lot of the solvent-based strippers and cleaners and things like that, those are going to be reactive to flame. Those are going to be reactive to heat and things like that. So that's really what you got to be careful for. So knowing what the product you are and how you're storing it. The other thing with storage is how that product's going to react with other chemicals. So I think probably the best example to use is mixing ammonia and bleach. Creates a noxious hazardous gas. What chemicals and strippers are you using, and what happens if another product that you have stored in your because we know Stripwell's an herb. So we know we're not going to have any issues with storage or anything like that with that. But whatever you're using, like methyl ethyl bad stuff, product that you happen to have, and it's not properly stored, it's not properly used, and that melts, and now it melts the other products, the other combustibles that are in. Now you have what turns into could turn into a really bad situation. So storage is going to be huge. How you're storing it. And the nice thing with Stripwell is you can basically drink it.
We tell people not to. But
I wouldn't do that, but you certainly could.
Some of the chemicals I've used in my career, some especially stripping chemicals, you wouldn't want to drink it.
No,
you wouldn't even want to dabble in that. I remember my dad. I grew up like you, where my dad was the refinisher. I grew up with that. That was my beginnings. And I remember one time going up to him to talk to him while he was stripping furniture, and he was using, the kind of the go-to commercial, which was the methylene chloride, stripper, and he moved very quickly, but just a little bit came off of his brush and hit me right in the eye. And I was like 6 or 5, and I just remember, good Lord, it was just like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's ran and washed it out and everything. But it's just those chemicals are so. I mean, that's a whole different conversation because that's the
Right.
that's the toxicity and all that.
Yep.
We're talking more flammability and sort of that danger. Is one thing I've noticed is a lot of times products, what they'll do is to remove the toxicity, they'll increase flammability. So they'll switch out a toxic ingredient, but they'll put a product or an ingredient that's very flammable.
Right.
So it's technically healthier,
Right.
but it's still dangerous in a new way. And so, you know, obviously when you're stripping things and you're staining and you're doing all these things in the
Well,
fucking world.
there's other solvents and there's other chemicals and there's stain, there's polish, there's this, there's that, you know, and you know you don't know how those things are going to react together should they mix, and that's just one of those things where you know some people tend to have the mindset of like they're never going to mix. Like, what are the chances of that happening? You know, of mixing. It's just like, well, you know, people don't wake up and say, my house isn't going to catch on fire today. I mean, you just don't know. Those things are going to happen. You know, so you have to take the proper precautions, the proper steps to keep that from happening.
What are your thoughts on sort of? I mean, one of the things that you always hear horror stories of is you have these rags that are soaked in something, and the combustibility versus kind of flammability. The dangers of that, how you want to handle that. What's a way you can handle some of those?
That's a really just pretty wild thing called spontaneous combustion. You know, chemical soaked rags, chemical soaked paper towels, chemical soaked brushes. And spontaneous combustion is really just it's at a point where the chemical or the product just reaches its own flash point, its own ignition temperature. And that can happen with just the right amount of mixture of air and another product or something along those lines where it causes it to spontaneously combust. So the best way to do it is any product you're using, it doesn't matter what it is. If you have rags, if you have paper towels, if you have anything that's going to be so chemical, you want to store it in a metal container. So they have so they have the closable lids. I think Harbor Freight sells them. They're relatively pretty cheap. It's just a totally metal container. So in the event that something does happen, there's nothing else in there that's gonna burn. It's not gonna spread.
I've also heard too. I mean, I see a lot of people doing this. Sometimes they'll just put them outside in a safe area, let them just dry out.
Absolutely. When you're done, put it outside. You just want to put it somewhere where it's not going to like get eaten by an animal or anything like that. You want to be cognizant of where you're putting that, or like the small children. You don't want them to start playing with that, getting it on their hands and whatnot. So, but that's certainly an option to do, is to put it outside so it dries.
Sort of spread it out, let the air.
Our technique is, when we are finished with paint cans or we're finished with solvent cans, things like that. We have a special area that we have designated where we take the tops off, lids off, it dries, and then once it's dry, then you can actually throw it away. Regular garbage.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and because that's the thing. I mean, accidents are accidents. They're called that because you can't predict it. You don't plan on happening. And I've heard, again, being in the refinishing industry, I've heard horror stories of anywhere from whole shops going up in flames. You have a woodworking shop, and you've got the ignition, and you've got all the items to feed that fire. You've got the wood furniture, you've got wood, just raw wood lying around that's so dry and ready to just go up. So one of the things too is I would take a guess. I might be wrong on this, but my guess is that most people don't have like a fire extinguisher anywhere near them.
That's going to be the thing. I mean, I'm myself a fireman, so I have extinguishers at home. I have them in the shop, and everybody knows where they are and they're marked and everything like that. But that's one of those things, and those can be easily picked up at like a BJ's or a Costco or you go to Walmart. They have them, and you can just pick them up, and that's going to be one of those things that if you're working in this industry and you're working with any chemicals at all, any whatsoever, you're going to want what's called a tri-class fire extinguisher. So it's going to have the 3 letters of A, B, C. That's going to cover anything, your papers, your chemicals, your electrical, things like that. It's the best type of extinguisher to have.
And generally speaking, do you know how just the length of time that those are still good? I know, like as a commercial,
so they can be good,
checked.
So they're basically good for 10 years.
Okay.
They're basically good for 10 years, and then they can be recertified after 10.
Okay.
So, but the ones you're getting at BJ's, Costco's, Walmart, things like that, they're throwaway. After 10 years, you just throw them away. And that's it. The ones that we use in the commercial setting, you know, those are more industrial, those are certified. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are the biggest issues that most people are going to face. I mean, again, the toxicity is another conversation to have. That's a totally different issue of safety concerns. But as far as flammability goes, I know there are a lot of great products now on the market. That's one of the elements that we have tried to build into ours. But a lot of other companies, even with different stains and paints and such, they're trying to build in the taking the flammability away as much as they can, VOCs, and trying to move in that direction. That's the way the world's moving. But obviously, there's still products that, for them to do what they do, they're flammable. So, yeah, that's cool. I mean, is there any other thoughts you have on just safety precautions?
well, I think the biggest thing is, regardless of what you're working with, you know, you need to have gloves on. You need to have eye protection. An apron is probably good because you don't want to, even if you're wearing junk clothes, you don't want to, you know, if there's rubber aprons you can get, or like a rubber, you know, front protection you can get. You know, because we're you know, if we want to kind of circle back to the beginning, and we have knowledge.
Yeah.
We know the products that we're using. Proper storage. Proper use. Fire protection, and then self protection. So that's kind of the 5 points you really want to pay attention to when you're working with that.
That's a good point, because I mean, you think about, you have these flammable these liquids. They're often a liquid form or a gel of some kind, and if you get them on you, now you're carrying this. You become potentially part of the fire, you know, because you have it on you. So preventing that from absorbing into your own cloth on your body is a good idea.
Right. And then you know, the other thing to think about too, I guess would be my 6th point, would be you know, hazardous waste. So as you're stripping the furniture and things like that, you know, you're stripping off that poly, and that poly is going to fall onto probably newspaper. Because I assume that most people are putting cardboard or newspaper down on the ground, so that when they strip the top of the, you know, dresser or whatever, you know, it falls onto the newspaper, it doesn't damage the floor or anything like that. You know, and I think probably the important thing with that is not putting that away, not putting that in the garbage wet. You know, making sure that stuff is all dry before it's put into a garbage. And then, you know, not tying the bag. You know, so that way it doesn't.
It seems like when you seal it in, the vapors can sort of
build, and so leaving the bag kind of open in the garbage can, obviously, but you know, leaving that bag open so that there's, you know, air circulation, things like that. And then obviously throwing that away in a metal garbage can, not a plastic garbage can, to, you know, reduce your flammability issues. Like, I have my garbage can on the side of my house, so if I was to put something hazardous in there and it's a plastic garbage can and I have vinyl siding, and you know, next thing you know, now my house is on fire. The outside of my house is on fire.
Well, that's what happens a lot of times. I mean, this time of the year, this is a different issue, but like people with fire, with wood stoves and things, they'll take the embers that they think are out, put them right next to their house, go to sleep, and they're not out yet, and suddenly there's a fire. It's you know, it's you almost have to just think to the extreme, because accidents happen so quick, and it can be so impactful. I mean, again, a lot of these, you know, people watching are in their house. So how awful is it to have your hobby suddenly level your home, and hopefully no loss of life, if that's the case. You know, that there would be just damage of goods and things. But yeah, so I mean, that's all super helpful stuff. I mean, it's kind of like common sense stuff, but sometimes you have to be reminded by someone who sees it every day. Because,
well, the thing is, you know, when you can buy something readily on the internet, or you can buy something at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, you know, it's pretty much deemed automatically safe.
You know, you kind of feel that way.
You feel that way. It's just kind of, you know, your mentality is, oh, this must be safe for selling it in the store. So I think that's going to be the big thing with that, is that you know, at the end of the day, it is a chemical compound, and you know, there's all. I didn't go through all the training I went through for that, just because chemical compounds are all safe. You know, some are, and some certainly aren't. And then some that are safe, once they're mixed with a certain compound, become unsafe.
Yeah, exactly.
It changes the chemical compound structure. It becomes an unsafe.
Well, we even say that about ours, is that yes, by itself, in its pure form, it's very safe. But now you're stripping away something that is a coating that has other elements to it. So you're mixing that in. So even though our element is considered safe, you don't want to now just dispose of that recklessly just because ours is safe, because you're mixing other elements in. But yeah, that's, you go into a Home Depot or a Lowe's or one of these things and you see all these products and you assume that they have some sort of seal of safety approval. Like anyone should be able to use these. And then even the branding sometimes is meant to look super safe. Use
absolutely.
this and there's no way this could be dangerous. And then you read a little deeper and you find out like, oh wow, there's a lot in here that's far from safe.
Right.
So in different ways. So
I think just educate yourself on the products that you're using. The information is out there. So if you're gonna pick a product to start using, research, you want to know what you're using, and the information is there on the internet. You can find it. It's going to tell you how to use it, how to store it, what to do with the waste, what to do if you get something on you, things like that. But I think the biggest thing with with Stripwell is that it's just an inherently safe product in its self form.
Right.
And I think that's a huge plus to the industry.
Cool. Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, if anyone wants to find more out about your business, because obviously someone's watching, maybe they know a firefighter and they're thinking this is a great idea, this is something I want to, how do they follow up with you? We're going to tag you too and all that.
Okay, cool. But, we're on all the social media channels, Instagram, Facebook. We have a huge Instagram presence. And we can also go to ragtopfire.com. That's our website. It has all our information on there. And then you can also, get a hold of us there. The shop's open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Somebody will answer the phone and somebody will be happy to help you.
Cool. Yeah, so another story of someone starting off as a sort of side hustle with a regular day job, but then it growing into something that's a full-blown company, with employees. And so anyone watching who's sort of starting off and doing refinishing, thinking, oh, this is only going to make me a little bit, you never know. If you keep mastering the skills and learning and growing, you can expand and have apparel even maybe someday. Have some shirts.
When are we gonna get the Stripwell apparel?
We get asked about it. Yeah, soon enough. Yeah. We've had people say they want the "I'm in love with a stripper" shirt, which it's kind of funny. We'll see.
I mean,
some people
I would buy that.
Yeah.
I would buy that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, Pete.
All right, Gary. Thanks
for your time, and everybody check out Pete Ragtop. Great stuff. The quality of their work is awesome, and just thank you for your time.
Likewise. Appreciate it.